Good afternoon. Thank you for creating time for us. You are in time for the Lunchtime News. A very warm welcome to the broadcast. My name is Irene Muchuma Odem. On sign language interpretation, we have Lensa Odingo. It is the 7th day, the month of November 2022. Kakamega Governor is this afternoon expected to respond to graft allegations at Ketrako. He is at the ESCC offices. My colleague Tess Mutai is on that bit. Do interact with us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 and on our interactive segment this afternoon. That will be in business news. We'll be talking immobility matters. Our top focus this afternoon, police are pursuing suspects believed to be behind a spate of brazen killings in Laikipia County. Their latest victim, a middle-aged man, killed and his body dumped in a culvert along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway.
Lari sub-county in Kiambu County has now become the center of a marauding gang out on a killing spate. In an incident suspected to have occurred last night, residents woke up to a horrific scene of a middle-aged man killed and his body dumped in a culvert along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway. But this is not the first incident, as the area has continued to experience incidences of insecurity attributed to a gang of 15.
Na baadhi ya wale ambao tunawashuku ya kwamba ndio wanahusika na vitendo hivi vya uhalifu, majina yao tuko nayo na tunawafuatilia, na pia tumeweza kuwapea kwa maafisa wa askari ili waweze kufuatiliwa.
While the police claim they are pursuing the gang, the area residents want police to heighten patrols to avert other incidents.
Tunaweza taka uchunguzi ufanywe na at least tuwekewe security hapa kwetu. Juu security inaonekana ni mbaya, especially Kimende.
Ningetaka serikali wapiga patrol masaa ya usiku, sababu kuna watu wengine ambao wanatoka makazi masaa ya usiku na pengine wanaweza shuka hii magari wakitoka kazi wakutane na hao wahalifu.
Visa kama hii ichunguzwe ili watu wale wanafanya kitendo kama hiyo wachukuliwe hatua kali na ili watabuliwe ndio wajulikane ni akina nani.
John Jacob Kuria, Lunchtime News.
Residents of Tana Delta in Tana River County have been urged to make use of the short rains to till their farms and produce food instead of relying on relief supplies. Local administration says it's ironical that the area has a huge agricultural potential, but locals are not making use of the fertile delta.
At least 300 households at Bilisa village, Tana Delta, have received assorted food and non-food items from the Humanity First Kenya organization to mitigate the impact drought.
Tumetembelea mto Tana, tunaona pia kiwango cha maji kimerudi chini. Sasa ni jukumu letu kama Humanity First kuhakikisha kwamba watu hawa wanapata maji kwa wingi, wanapata chakula kwa wingi. Ndio maana tumekuja hapa. Kazi yetu ni kusaidia wale maskini wa chini katika jamii.
Area Chief Nuru Dokota Barraza said the relief food will help locals in short term, but urge them to make use of the short rains to till their land and produce something for themselves, as donations are not sustainable.
Sasa vile mvua imepatikana, hatujui kama hii mvua ni mvua kubwa ama ni rasha tu, lakini nahimiza wakaji wa location yangu waende, yule ana shamba aende alime shamba ajisaidie.
Locals say they are hopeful that the short rains will enable grass to grow so that their animals get enough food, hence reducing the effects of drought. Pauline Nasimio for Lunchtime News.
All right, the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers is threatening to mobilize its members to go on strike following the scrapping of medical hospitals from the list of hospitals offering medical cover to teachers by Minutes Insurance Company. The leaders are now demanding the government to enlist them in the Comprehensive National Hospital Insurance Fund cover. Speaking at Kaptagat Girls, Elgeyo Marakwet County during their annual general meeting, the union called for dialogue with both the Ministry of Education and the Teachers Service Commission to seek a lasting solution.
are shocked that as we speak, that facility was stopped. And we are saying as a union, unless you return Medihill, it will not be business as usual. Teachers of this country, they are demanding that they want comprehensive NHIF to treat teachers in this country. To say me power. NHIF power.
We have been agitating for comprehensive NHIF cover. We have not gotten it. But to our surprise, even the few good hospitals, the few very good hospitals which were available or providing services with minute are now being taken away.
A section of Luo Professionals and University Students Association from Nyanza region have urged political leaders from the region to support President William Ruto's administration for the sake of the region's development. Led by young Luo Professionals Chair Dennis Onyango, they said antagonizing the government could derail development. They further lauded the president for several professionals from the region in at the national level.
University Students Association, in as much as today we are congratulating our brothers from the Lake region who got the well-deserved appointments, we are also asking His Excellency the President to consider ladies and women as they're equally capable of holding office. For us to attain the 2/3 general, we must not overlook such.
Zile appointment tuliona ilipelekwa huko sehemu ya Nyanza. Tunapata tuko na watu wetu kutoka Homa Bay na hata kuongozwa na Elido Walo yule anatoka Siaya kusimamia ICT. Sasa hii ni ishara kuwa hatuko katika opposition ama upinzani. Sasa tuko kwa serikali na tungependa kuhimiza watu wetu tuunge hii serikali mkono na tufanye nao kazi pamoja. Manake hata rais baada ya kuapishwa alikuja pale Homa Bay na akatuahidi kwamba ako na mipango ya kufanya na sisi kazi.
We were not expecting the appointments, so I will call it a pleasant surprise and a gesture that we don't want to ignore. We want to assure our new president that in as much as we may not have voted for him, we love what he has done for us, and so we are urging our community to embrace him and support his development agenda.
Now, the Kakamega Governor Fernandez Barraza is this afternoon at the EACC. He has been there since morning hours. This as he responds to allegations of graft at Ketraco. My colleague Tess Mtai is on that bit. Tess, good afternoon.
Well, hello there, Irene Muchuma. We are coming to you live from Integrity Center, where Barraza has been, Fernandez Barraza has been summoned by the EACC to face the panel following alleged cases of corruption. Now, what he is being summoned for is when he was still the boss for Ketraco, and the cases, the allegations he is facing is following suspected fraudulent transactions. The money that is in question is 600 million shillings that was paid to Lake Turkana Wind Power, and other millions of shillings is also in questions, of which they were paid to wrong accounts. That is what is allegedly said. So we are waiting for him. He's been inside since morning, facing the panel, answering the questions. We are waiting for him until he emerges later. Then we will have a full report to give you later. Back to you in studio, Irene Muchuma.
All right, Tess Mutai giving us an update from the EACC offices, that is at the Integrity Center. Be sure to catch up with her as events unfold right here on KBC Channel 1. To other news, the Speed Governor and Road Safety Association has threatened to sue the Kenya National Highways Authority, KENHA, if it does not redesign the expanded Eastern Bypass. The association's chairman, Edward Gitonga, and the Road Safety Association of Kenya chairman, David Kiarie, said the road design puts users at great risk as it lacks service lanes on each side for public service vehicles to drop and pick passengers. They also faulted the erection of a roundabout in the middle of the 4-lane highway.
Tunataka kuanza crackdown kutoka sasa mwezi wa Novemba. Ukiingia barabarani ufanye speed ile inafaa. Most of our roads is 110 for private vehicles na gari hizi zingine ni 80. Ukienda speed imepita hiyo, it is at your own peril.
Gumza mambo ya instant fines. Tunashukuru sana. Hiyo itasaidia. Hii jacket ina kamera. Na polisi anapozungumza na mtu yoyote barabarani anakuwa captured. Kwa center anaonekana yale anazungumza.
All right, you might have heard about electric cars or maybe not. This afternoon, we'll be having an interactive session where we'll be engaging stakeholders in the motorcycle and motor vehicle industry on the same. Continue interacting with us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. We are taking a breather. We'll be back. Stay with us.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723 892 654 or 0734 780 124.
To get Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 as your skiza tune, dial *811 *967 #.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not in your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 to 6.
To get Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5, dial *811 *967 #. *811 *967 #.
This week on Tech on Tech, we tell you how legal meets tech.
Our application is called Legal Tech Services. It's a web-based application, and what it does is allow for the exchange of legal services.
In tech news, e-insurance startup bags 1.2 billion in Series A drive, and internationally, Elon Musk presents Optimus. This is a humanoid robot. More details in our tech news roundup.
Join me, Stephanie Ayeta and Grace Gedaiga, as we serve you with only the best tech updates the world over.
Take on Tech every Monday at 10:30 p.m. on KBC Channel 1. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Mr. Otieno. Na ukumbuke FIFA World Cup 2022 iko hapa here in KBC na kuhitaji. Karibu.
Thank you for keeping it KBC Channel 1. Welcome back. At least 6,000 learners are feared to have dropped out of school in Laikipia's constituency due to hunger. Speaking at Laikipia's primary school during a flagging off ceremony for relief food to schools in the area, Laikipia's Deputy County Commissioner Langat Bitok revealed that at least 34% of the learners in the region were not in school due to the biting drought and famine in the area. He appealed to all parents and stakeholders to work collaboratively with the local administration to help the students to return to class.
Laikipia Sub-County Director of Education, Ali Okero, attributed the continued massive student dropouts to the lack of food as a result of the ongoing drought. Kero, noting that over 1,000 students returned to school early this year when Lake Turkana Wind Power Company rolled out a 2-month feeding program in schools across Laikipia Sub-County.
Wengine wametuambia kuanzia kesho wakisia chakula imefika watarudi shuleni. Tuendelee kushauriana, kupatilishana ujumbe ili tusaidiane na machifu wetu tuwarejeshe shuleni.
Laikipia's Deputy County Commissioner Langat Bitok saying that at least 34% of the learners in the region were not in school due to the biting drought and famine in the region.
Nina imani kwamba wazazi ambao walikuwa wametoa watoto shuleni wataweza kurudisha watoto shuleni ili waweze kuja kuendelea na masomo yao, na pia hasa wale ambao wanafanya mtihani.
Meanwhile, Anglican Church of Kenya Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit has called on all Kenyans to come together and assist drought-stricken counties by mobilizing resources and foodstuffs.
We continue to join the government and His Excellency the President in making an appeal for the people of Kenya to share our acts of mercy and love to counties that are affected by drought.
Ole Sapit said the Anglican Church of Kenya has already mobilized resources worth 40 million shillings and their teams are distributing relief food in areas of Turkana, Baringo, Samburu, Marsabit and Kajiado.
We want to dam the country so that whenever there is rain, we protect that water that is running off, put it in dams so that in times of drought, we can be able to irrigate the land and produce sufficient food for ourselves.
Elsewhere, well-wishers have raised concern over Kajiado County starving residents who are feeding on dead animals as a result of the hard-hitting drought.
Tutapata magonjwa sana. Shauri ukiona sasa watu kama wanakula ng'ombe inakufa, hii ng'ombe tujui kama zinakufa ugonjwa ama njaa, na mtu atasa kula hiyo kitu na aanze kuumwa na tumbo, sasa itasatudhuru sisi kama wanadamu.
Locals say the relief food from both the national and the county governments has not been enough to salvage them from the drought situation and now want the relevant authorities to supply them with more relief food, including vegetables and fortified porridge for their children.
Tunaomba pia wafadhili wanapoendelea kutusupport watutafutie vitu kama maharagwe, wanapoleta mahindi wanalete pamoja na maharagwe, ama unga pamoja na maharagwe, ama ndengu. Cereals can also be very good for us.
Colin Shadrack for Lunchtime News.
Prohibitive costs, delayed diagnosis, lack of information and stigma have been cited as some of the major factors that contribute to cancer mortality in Kenya. Sheila Yogo was in Mkuru kwa Njenga slums in Embakasi South constituency and brings us the story of Eunice Nzelani, a mother of 3 children who is grappling with cervical cancer.
In Mkuru kwa Njenga slums, Nairobi County, we meet 39-year-old Eunice Nzelani, a wife and a mother of 3 children. Nzelani was diagnosed with cervical cancer.
Nikaenda kwa daktari akaniambia niende lab nikachukue siko huko. Nikaenda na ile receipt ilikuwa nayo ya pesa. Nikaenda kwa wapendi wakanitolea. Kunitolea wakaniambia nipeleke daktari mkubwa anisomee. Sasa tukapeleka huko. Sasa vile tulipeleka huko ndio akaniambia niko na cancer.
Seeking treatment has been a Herculean task for Nzelani.
Sasa kushukuru kwa nyumba ile pesa hakuna. Sasa kaniambia sasa wamenilipia 60,000. Sasa siku nyingine itakuwa mimi mwenyewe najilipia. Sasa kila wiki nilikuwa nalipa 17,000. Sasa nikaanza sasa matibabu, nikaanza kuenda, nikaanza tarehe 1. Nikaendelea kafika tarehe 20 hivi mwili kaanza kuwa ina nguvu.
Nzilani is a salonist but she had to stop working.
Sifanyi kazi, mzee yangu ana ile kazi inaweza simamia hiyo ugonjwa. Hiyo ugonjwa ni ugonjwa na kujanga ya kufagilia kila kitu. Mimi nilikuwa na ng'ombe, nilikuwa na mbuzi. Zote ziliisha.
Cancer treatment and expensive chemotherapy has put more burden to the family.
Pesa hakuna, sasa nilitishwa 17,000 na hiyo pesa sina. Kazi ya mzee yangu si ile kazi unaweza sema inaweza kukufanyia chochote, nile asikuelewa kwa kazi kesho kutwa hakuna kazi.
The National Health Insurance Fund has a package for cancer patients.
We have the oncology benefit, which has chemotherapy. So this is basically the medication that is given specifically to manage cancers. It has radiotherapy, and the scope is from 2D imaging, 3D imaging. There is what is called IMRT, and there is what is called VAMAT.
Despite Eunice Nzilani being a member of the National Health Insurance Fund, her benefits are short-lived.
Sasa nimedaiwa sana. Nimekosa hata hiyo pesa ya kulipa NHIF. Tangu mwezi ya 3 siyalipa.
Nzilani's pain may live with her for long. She's planning to raise funds for her treatment, but with little hope.
Si unajua sasa kama umeshanichangia mara ya kwanza, mara ya pili, hiyo mara ya 3 utakuwa naona na huyu mtu kwani ameona sisi ndio tuko na pesa. Hata mimi sina, sasa ngine tuseme hata mimi sasa sina.
The member of County Assembly of Embakasi South, Francis Kimondo, expresses challenges that prove futile to treat cancer in the area.
In our county, I don't think we are facilitated in that. We can only ship in at a personal, and we can also make it to be a motion so that we can ship in.
Wengi wanafikiria hiyo procedure ama hiyo process ya kufanyiwa hivyo ni uchungu. Wengine wanaogopa kuwa akipatikana itamgharimu ama cost hazini hiyo pesa matibabu ama atatibiwa wapi.
In Mkuru kwa Ruben, medical workers are creating awareness through patients.
We have been able to reach to do health education. We have been able to reach to do health education to our postnatal mothers, that is at 6 weeks, and also to our other clinics, including the comprehensive care clinic and normal clients who came for other services like promotion and preventive services and curative.
The government of Kenya rolled out the HPV vaccine in 2019 to lower chances of contracting the disease, but the uptake is minimal.
At first, there were controversies surrounding the vaccine, the way it was rolled out. And most of the parents did not take the initiative to bring their daughters for vaccination.
To prevent cervical cancer mortality, women are encouraged to go for frequent screening in order to treat the disease at its early stage, and young girls from 10 years old to go for the human papilloma vaccine that is highly effective in protecting women against cervical cancer. Despite availability of nationwide cancer screening services, women from informal settlements shy off from taking up these services, saying if they are diagnosed with the disease, they will not be able to afford the high cost that comes with the treatment of the disease, and they also fear that they will be discriminated by the society, factors that limit uptake of screening in informal settlements. Sheila Yogo reporting for KBC in Mukuru kwa Njenga slums.
Welcome to Channel 1 Business News. It is during this hour that we are going to cover discussions on immobility and what investors in Kenya are doing in regards to electric cars. But first, A record 200,000 shoppers were at the Changamka Festival in Nairobi to shop locally made products last week. Changamka Committee Chair Pankaj Bedi says the festival created direct linkages between manufacturers and consumers, allowing for quality improvement of goods from direct feedback.
A preference of imports to locally made goods and high taxation has been cited as some of the factors dragging the contribution of the manufacturing sector to the economy. The Kenya Association of Manufacturers, however, notes that with more exposure, locally made goods could appeal more to Kenyans, pushing the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya agenda.
Bringing in the local manufacturers together and linking them with the consumers.
Manufacturers themselves come and meet consumers directly and listen to them, show them the products, at the same time encourage them to buy at highly discounted rates.
They said this at the conclusion of the 5-day Changamka Festival, which saw close to 250,000 Kenyans purchasing export quality, locally manufactured goods at discounted prices. This, they say, is an immense growth from the first expo, which had about 10,000 people. Further, they said the good response by Kenyans to the showcased goods was a sign of willingness to consume Kenyan products, and favorable policies for the sector would ensure price reductions that would increase market outreach.
Kenyans who are behind the products, the manufacturers, because manufacturing generally sells through third parties, either distributors, wholesalers, retailers, but not necessarily seeing the face behind the product.
Local manufacturers say domestic appreciation would boost exportation, which would increase self-reliance and create jobs.
We kind of ease out the middleman, so you work directly.
Continue supporting Made in Kenya. You know, that's what is going to create more jobs for us as Kenyans. It will create stable life for people. You know, each job helps 5 other dependents at home. So we need to now be a little more patriotic, start looking inward, start supporting our own manufacturers, our SMEs, our women.
Hibak Said for Lunchtime News.
All right, electric cars are said to be environmental friendly, but this they are said to emit fewer greenhouse gases as well as air pollutants. To discuss e-mobility and what investors in Kenya are doing in regards to electric cars is none other than Frederick Mteti, Agilita East Africa Managing Director. Welcome on set. Good afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Frederick, let's begin by understanding about these electric cars and what uptake we are having in the country in regards to the electric cars.
Basically, we are looking at according to Kenya Power Statistics, they're talking about almost 1,000 vehicles. I think you can see most of the Uber, most of the taxi hailing companies, most of them have uptaken. They've already uptaken Uber and electrical vehicles in their system. Why so? Because one, that's where to go. That's green. That's the direction for everyone.
But then we are having the issue of charging ports. I understand there are quite a number of electrical cars that we are having in the country, but even for them to be so effective, there are issues with charging ports. Way forward for this from where you sit?
Now, I'll speak from Agility East Africa. Agility we've developed will be the first in Africa to develop the fast and off-grid systems. Our systems are totally different, where you find we'll have a charging port system that charges through solar and can be used and has a retaining of capacity of more power when there is no solar. For the purposes of off-grid, we are not only looking for home solutions, for car solutions, but home solutions as well. So the issue of the charging ports, they come standard, and they come now on our end. We are developing home packs that will be able to charge from zero to 100 between 12 to 15 minutes for a full charge.
But looking at how many cars we could be using when we say we are fully transmitting from the fuel, the cars that use fuel, because actually it's on the higher end to use fuel in the country, and many of us would opt to shift gears to the other side. How long will it take us to adjust to this and put everything in place for all of us to change to electric cars?
Well, it takes policies, government policies. Around 2 countries or 3 countries in Africa have banned the number of used cars. The bigger problem we are facing in Africa, and Kenya not being an exception, is over 40%. It's only 40%. It's only 16% of the cars in the market that are new. The rest are all second. A majority of them are second-hand cars, most of them which cannot pass even the environmental test from where they come from. So basically, it's policies, sensitivity by governments. We know Kenya is on the front line. We know Rwanda, Uganda have already put on policies. Ethiopia is also at the front line. So it's policies that will make us change due to the fossil burning of more fuel into the economies.
Besides the policies, there is the issue of high taxes. Quite a number of people have said that the taxes are too high for having an electric car in Kenya, and this is hindering them from making moves. What do you think should be done? Because it's about time that we also consider the cost of these electric cars. For instance, a 32-seater bus is said to go for 5.8 million shillings, quite high compared to fuel, bus that uses fuel.
Yes, we might look at that as one angle, but we're also looking at the environmental impact of the same. Because when you look at the environmental impact of developing just one bus, the amount of carbon print that is left by just manufacturing one bus is far much higher in comparison to an electric. You're also looking at the environmental impact onto the same. Safety, for example, noise pollution. We will ordinarily know in a Kenyan scenario how much noise pollution we get from our roads. At an electric side of it, you're looking at if these vehicles have to do like below 20 kilometers, right now there's a policy for them to have a beeper. 1, noise pollution, 2, carbon, and 3, where are we looking? The span for life. The wear and tear for an electric vehicle is far much less in comparison to when you're looking at a fossil fuel, a diesel or petrol car, which by chance also happens to have a lot of e-waste into the community, into everything, from oil changes, from the sheer size of it, because also the amount of metal that is used on an diesel-powered car is far much higher. So vis-a-vis, when you look at the long run, it's much cheaper.
When you say in the long run it's much cheaper, what does it take to maintain this car? Because I understand there is the specialized mechanics about the electric cars.
Well, other than the braking system, which uses a braking system that is regenerative, which on this case, even the braking system produces power back to the car. You're basically looking at the brakes being the highest, maybe the only thing that you'll need to replace in a long while in comparison to the other cars. The rest are motors, which will take quite a long while to replace. The batteries that are fuel or the battery packs have an average minimum lifespan of 10 years for them to be replaced. So once you look at that in comparison on how many times you'll have to do oil changes in a span of 10 years, on how many times you'll have to do engine and overhauls in the car in a span of 10 years, it's not in comparison.
Maybe for someone who is already interested in these electric cars, there is the charging system that is being used in this case. How long will a full charged battery take? For example, for someone who is doing public service, vehicle services in the country?
Okay. I'll talk about Agility Africa cars and motorbikes. Basically, we are looking at 2 things. We are looking at from 10 10 minutes to 15 minutes on our charging system for a full charge. But also on two-wheel transportation, we are looking at packs that give almost 75 kilometers on a single charge. This means you're going to have stations where they can replace the batteries once they need to replace as immediately. But due to the home solution and home packs, most of them will meet that. A single charge for our cars, we're looking at to do almost 400 kilometers on a single charge. So vis-a-vis that, it's much available. And yes, we will put more stations, some charger station in public buildings and malls to enable more accessibility of the same.
Since the use of these electric cars are environmental friendly, I believe there are quite a number of stakeholders who are supporting this initiative. But then it also has its own challenges, and the government is supporting it perhaps because of the fight in the effects of climate change. But then what do you think the government should do to fast track this exercise in having the country adopting fully to electric cars?
One of the biggest things is complete on its policy, which is being worked on the framework. The second thing is it's leading the way by leasing more electric vehicles than where it's been on the other side, doing more of diesel and petrol powered cars. We know Kenya Power is on the front line of doing the same with the budget allocations later in the year, later next year, to purchase more cars that are electric vehicles. What we look on to the other side is it calls on government incentives for them to have incentives on those who are in the front line of doing so. The country has a lot of hybrid cars. We will be glad to say we will be 100% fully electric cars in the market, not hybrids. But what we're looking at, tax initiatives that will allow investors and uptake from people, because we are not only looking at the consumption, we are looking at when there is more carbon emission, also diseases are high, they're going to spend on the hospitals because of the same. We're also looking at the time that is wasted. The waste, you go to most of our garages, when you look at them, most of those grounds cannot grow anything green due to the amount of waste that is there. So basically we're looking at that direction, that will be more cooperative from the government and the stakeholders. And finally, for it to put a capping on the amount of new vehicles, give incentives on amount of new vehicles that are coming into the market, since the biggest number of the vehicles that we have in the market are huge pollutants, even from where they come from. They can't even pass the test to be in their own market. So I think it's the best to encourage and give tax cuts and tax breaks into those willing to invest in the same sector.
Right. What is the way forward as a country now that this is a system that we want to adjust to? What would you urge Kenyans at large as you make your closing remarks?
Well, I want to urge Kenyans to look at the issue of electric vehicles differently. One, to the purposes of one, you're looking at the global demand. That's the direction. You're looking at the bigger players in the Europe market, Tesla and the rest. That's the way to go. One, it will save our environment. Our carbon print will go down. It will reduce our noise pollution in our markets, in our environment. We're also going to reduce on amount of car waste when it comes to used parts and all that, and trying to redo most of the vehicles and all that. But most importantly, on a parting shot, is the world right now at, as you know, right now it's at the COP27. And basically what is happening right now, the world globe over, it's an issue about carbon credits. Those who are investing into that, into the local economy, are also helping the country gain into more of the carbon credits and helping other sectors. And this goes a long way to the amount that they are spending, the government is spending on treating fossil fuels issues, into planting more trees, into planting and doing more things that are more green related. So I believe this is the way, and we will work with the various stakeholders, the various players, and basically we're going to see to it that a more greener Kenya and a more greener East Africa for the purposes and prosperity of everyone.
When you start talking about planting trees, this means that we also have to bring on board environmentalists for us to have a common goal. That is Frederick Mteti, the Agility East Africa Managing Director, shedding the lights more on immobility in the country and efforts being done by investors in Kenya and also East Africa at large in encouraging the use of electric cars. Thank you for creating time for us. In other news, Kenya is seeking to increase horticultural food produce exports, riding on a new food safety and standard law that is expected to be enacted.
The government seeks to increase exports to meet demand for safe and high-quality food. Horticulture Crops Director Benjamin Tito says there is need to ensure output is maximized throughout the crop cycle.
Also encourage the departure from rain-fed agriculture into probably the irrigated forms of agriculture, because that is what is going to give Kenya a lifeline. So I would wish all the value chain actors to actively contribute towards sustainability in food production practices.
Agriculture Principal Secretary says a food safety and standard bill will be tabled in Parliament to help address food insecurity in the country, with over 90% of horticultural food produced by small-scale farmers consumed locally.
By this food policy and food safety bill, I mentioned earlier that we've just been having silos of independent agencies that were regulating food within their own jurisdiction. But we realized that was affecting the country because we are not acting in a coordinated manner. As a result, we developed that policy and also the food safety bill.
Linturi is urging farmers to grow certified seeds for their particular areas in order to get desired yields, especially during this short rains period.
Kuhakikishia na kuelezea wakulima kuweza kutumia mbegu ambazo zinaweza kustahimili ile makali ya kihewa ama hizo drought resistant ya kiangazi. Na tumekuwa njusi kule Kalro ambayo mnaijua, na ni watu wamedevelop hizo variety za mbegu.
Frederick Muki for Lunchtime News.
Thank you for staying with us. Across the borders, the United States voters will head to the polls on Tuesday to vote for their congregational representatives in the 2022 midterm elections. President Joe Biden and ex-President Donald Trump held dueling rallies as the election to reshape Congress entered its final campaign day. Biden and Trump made their last-minute pleas to voters in New York and Florida, respectively. Momentum has shifted recently towards Republicans who are trying to wrestle both chambers from Democratic control. Winning one chamber would severely hinder President Biden's legislative agenda.
It's a tight race for power between Democrats and Republicans. Currently, Democrats' majority in Congress is razor thin as they control the House of Representatives by only a handful of seats. The Senate is having a 50-50 power split as there are 50 serving Republicans, 40 Democrats and 2 independents. The Vice President Kamala Harris' tie-breaking vote gives the Democrats an upper hand advantage. As for the Speaker Nancy Pelosi, her control of the House rests on a slim margin. Just like the rest of the world following the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. is similarly grappling with a soaring inflation and a fallout in the economy. For many Democrats, the most pressing issue on the ballot is democracy itself, in the face of partisan gerrymandering and election fraud claims from the Republicans.
Recent polls have shown that overwhelming majority of Americans believe our democracy is at risk, that our democracy is under threat. They too see that democracy is on the ballot this year.
Many, however, have made access to abortions as the central plank of their platforms after the Supreme Court overturned a decision legalizing abortion.
In sports, Aston Villa moved up to 13th place in the English Premier League, 3 points above the relegation zone after beating Manchester United 3-1 last evening at Villa Park. The hosts had not beaten United on home soil in the league since 1995, but were 2-0 up after 11 minutes in the game following an incredible start.
Here now is Ollie Watkins down the left-hand side for Villa. Watkins now as they look to restore that 2-goal advantage with the cutback, surely! Yes!
United missed the presence of the injured Rafael Varane, Jadon Sancho and Anthony, as well as the suspended Bruno Fernandes, as defeat leaves them 3 points adrift of the top 4 in 5th. Meanwhile, Southampton have decided to sack manager Ralph Hasenhüttl after a 4-1 defeat to Newcastle on Sunday, which left the club in the relegation zone. The Premier League side have agreed to sack the Australian either during the World Cup break or before they play their final match before the global tournament against Liverpool at Anfield next Saturday.
Maxima and back again. Here's Bruno with a shot into the bottom corner.
Finally, Liverpool had slipped down to 10th before kick-off of the
World number 1 Iga Swiatek for Poland is out of the season-ending WTA finals in Texas after a shock 3-set semi-final defeat by Aryna Sabalenka. Belarusian 7th seed Sabalenka won 6-2, 2-6, 6-1 and will now face France Caroline Garcia in the final later today. Poland's Swiatek had not dropped a set throughout the finals but was undone by her opponent's powerful forehand. The victory marked Sabalenka's first win in 5 meetings with Swiatek this season. She is the third player to beat the first, second and third seeds at a tournament since 2000 after her wins over Swiatek, Ons Jabeur and Jessica Pegler. Brazilian midfielder Felipe Coutinho is in danger of missing the 2022 World Cup finals in Qatar after picking an injury. Meanwhile, former England striker Alan Shearer says Newcastle right-back Kieran Trippier has to start for England at the global finals. The World Cup finals will be broadcast live on KBC Channel 1 and all affiliate radio stations beginning on the 20th of this